When I transferred to Westbrook High, I didn't think much of the rumors. Every school has its legends, right? The haunted locker, the bathroom you don't use, the hallway that feels colder than the rest. But this place, it felt different. The moment I stepped through the gates, the air seemed heavier, like I was stepping into someone's dream or nightmare. Mark was the only reason I came here. We grew up together, but his family moved, and we lost touch for years. Last month, out of nowhere, he messaged me, "You should transfer. Trust me. I can't explain it. Just, you'll be safer here with me." I thought it was weird, but he sounded desperate. So I came. That first night, I stayed late filling out forms in the office. The sun had already set, and the corridors were empty. I walked past the rows of classroom windows, their glass panes reflecting the dim light from the street lamps outside. Then I saw it. A face. A figure was standing in the window of the second floor, its pale grin pressed against the glass. At first, I thought it was Mark trying to scare me, but something was wrong. Its neck was tilted far to the side, bent like a snapped tree branch, and its smile looked carved into its face. I froze. The figure didn't blink. Behind it, something else moved. Another shape, blurry in the shadows, standing still in the hallway. I stumbled back, my breath shaking. That's when I saw the streaks of dried blood smeared on the brick wall beneath the window. My pulse pounded in my ears. And then, a voice whispered from somewhere behind me, "You shouldn't be here after dark." The next morning, Mark was already waiting for me at the front gates. He looked different, thinner, pale, with dark circles under his eyes. When he saw me, his expression shifted from relief to panic. "You stayed after dark, didn't you?" he asked. My stomach tightened. "What are you talking about?" He grabbed my arm, pulling me aside like someone might overhear. "Don't stay here after sunset. Ever. You're lucky they didn't notice you." "Who?" I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. Mark just shook his head. "Not here. Not where they can hear." We sat in the cafeteria during lunch. It was loud enough with all the other students that he seemed a little more relaxed, but his eyes kept flicking toward the windows. He slid a folded piece of paper across the table to me. It was a list. Rules. 1. Don't look directly at anyone who's smiling after dark. 2. Don't talk to anyone if their head tilts unnaturally. 3. Never answer if someone calls your name from outside. 4. Stay away from the windows when the lights go out. 5. If you hear tapping, run. I looked up at him. "Is this a joke?" His face went pale. "Did you see something last night?" I swallowed hard, my mind flashing back to that figure in the window. That grin. That impossible neck. "Yeah," I muttered. Mark leaned closer. "Then it's already too late. They know you're here now." That night, I planned to leave before sunset. But as I walked toward the exit, I heard its soft tapping against the hallway windows. Tap, tap, tap. And someone whispered my name from the other side of the glass. The whisper sent ice through my veins. I stopped dead in the hallway, my backpack sliding off my shoulder. "Mark," I called, my voice barely above a breath. The reply came instantly, but it wasn't Mark's voice. It was wrong. Too smooth, too close, like someone leaning against the glass right behind me. "Come outside." I spun around. The windows lining the hallway were dark, reflecting my pale face. But there was something else in the reflection. A shadow standing just behind me, grinning, its neck tilted sharply, as though its head was too heavy for its body. I ran. When I reached the main doors, I nearly screamed. They wouldn't budge. It wasn't just locked. It was like the metal had fused together, cold and unyielding. I yanked the handles, slammed my shoulder against the wood, but nothing moved. The lights overhead flickered. Tap, tap, tap. The sound was everywhere now, like fingernails scraping glass from every direction. I bolted for the cafeteria, my heart hammering. I needed to find Mark. He had to know what to do. But when I turned the corner, I froze. Down the hallway, at least 4 figures were standing perfectly still. Their faces were pressed to the glass windows, smiles stretched far too wide. Their heads twitched and tilted slowly, unnaturally, like broken dolls. One of them stepped away from the window. The others followed. Suddenly, Mark's voice echoed from behind me. "Run, now." I spun around and saw him at the top of the stairs, waving frantically. Didn't hesitate. I sprinted up the stairs toward Mark, the sound of bare feet slapping against the hallway tiles echoing behind me. The figures were following, slow at first, then faster. Their grins widened as they tilted their heads farther and farther, joints popping like cracking bones. Mark yanked open a door at the end of the hallway. "In now!" I dove inside. He slammed it shut behind me and twisted 3 locks in place. We were in some kind of storage room, lit only by a single bulb swinging from the ceiling. My chest heaved as I tried to catch my breath. "What the hell are those things?" I demanded. Mark didn't answer right away. He was staring at the door, his hands shaking slightly. "They're not people," he finally whispered. "Not anymore. This school isn't what you think it is. At night, the building belongs to them." I backed up, my heart pounding. "Them?" Mark grabbed my shoulders. His eyes were wide and bloodshot. "The ones smiling. They look like students and teachers, but they're hollow. They watch the new kids, waiting for them to break the rules. Once you do, they'll make you one of them." I swallowed hard, my throat dry. "Why didn't you tell me before I came here?" He looked away. "I thought I could protect you. I thought I had time." A sudden thud hit the door, making us both jump. Then another. Thud, thud. The bulb above us flickered. Something was scratching at the door now, slow and deliberate, like nails dragging down wood. Mark grabbed my arm. "There's another way out, but we'll have to go past the windows." Mark led me through a maze of storage rooms and service tunnels beneath the school. The deeper we went, the quieter it became. No tapping, no whispers, just the sound of our breathing. Finally, we reached a rusted metal door. Mark pushed it open, and a blast of cool night air hit my face. We stumbled into the overgrown courtyard behind the school, the moonlight washing everything in silver. "Run," he whispered. We didn't stop until we were blocks away. By the time the sun rose, I was still shaking. Daylight made it all feel like a bad dream, but the memory of those grinning faces burned in my mind. At school, I tried asking other students about the rules. Most of them just gave me blank stares, laughing it off like I was crazy. One girl muttered something about staying away from the east wing at night before quickly changing the subject. But some of them smiled, not in a friendly way, just a little too wide, a little too still. I knew then, some of them weren't human anymore. Mark caught up with me after class. "Don't talk about the rules to anyone," he said under his breath. "They'll notice." I glanced around. A boy was standing at the end of the hallway, watching me without blinking, head tilted slightly. "Then how do we survive here?" I asked. Mark's face was grim. "We don't. We run or we become one of them." The next day felt wrong from the moment I walked into school. The halls were too quiet, like everyone was holding their breath. Mark walked beside me, tense, his eyes scanning every face we passed. "Don't stare at them," he whispered. I didn't understand at first until I saw her. A girl from my homeroom, Emily, was standing by her locker, smiling. Not a normal smile. It was too wide. Her lips stretched as if someone had carved the expression into her face. She didn't blink, didn't move, just stared straight ahead, her head tilted slightly to one side. "Wasn't she—" I started, but Mark cut me off. "She broke a rule last night," he said flatly. "That's not Emily anymore." I tried to focus in class, but the tension was unbearable. Every time I glanced up, I saw them, scattered among the students. Some grinned too wide, some tilted their heads at impossible angles. They just watched. At lunch, I couldn't hold it in anymore. "Mark, how long has this been happening? How many of them are there?" He leaned closer, his voice barely audible. "Too many. They're replacing people one by one. And if you talk about the rules too much, they notice. You saw what happened when you tried yesterday." I swallowed hard, remembering the boy at the end of the hallway who stared at me without blinking. By the end of the day, I'd made up my mind. I couldn't stay here. We have to leave the school, I told Mark as we walked to the gates. Tonight. For good. Mark's jaw tightened. I've tried. The school doesn't let you leave once it notices you. I stopped cold. Notices? He nodded. And it's already noticed you. I didn't try to leave that night. Mark's warning stayed with me. Instead, I sat awake in my room, staring at the list of rules he'd given me, memorizing every word. I kept asking myself, what happens if someone breaks them? I already knew the answer. I'd seen Emily's smile. The next day, I asked around again, but carefully this time. Most kids brushed me off or pretended not to hear. But when I cornered a quiet kid named Lucas after class, he finally muttered something that made my stomach drop. They come from the windows, he said without looking at me. At night, the smiling ones. Don't look too long or they'll know your face. Don't talk back if they call for you. When I pressed him for more, Lucas just walked away, pale and trembling. That evening, I made a mistake. I stayed too late. The sun was just dipping below the horizon when I left the library. The hall's empty except for the echo of my footsteps. As I walked past a row of classroom windows, I felt something, like being watched. I turned. A face was there, smiling at me through the glass. Not Emily this time, someone else. I forced myself to look down and keep walking. Tap. The sound came again. Fingernails against glass. Don't, I whispered to myself, don't look back. But then I heard my name. Hey, come here. I stopped dead. The voice was soft, almost kind, like someone I knew. Come here. My breath caught in my throat. I remembered Mark's list. Rule number 3. Never answer if someone calls your name from outside. I took a step forward anyway, just one step before I realized what I was doing. It didn't sound threatening. It sounded familiar, like my mom calling me for dinner. Don't be scared. I glanced up. The figure in the window was smiling. Its head tilted so far I thought its neck would snap. Its hand pressed against the glass, fingernails tapping lightly. The reflection of its grin seemed to spread across every other pane of glass around it, as if the whole hallway was smiling. Then my name came again, louder this time. A hand yanked me back. What the hell are you doing? Mark hissed, his face pale. You almost answered them. I wasn't. You looked. That's enough for them to notice. Even as he pulled me away, the tapping grew louder. Dozens of hands were pressing against the glass now. Shadows were moving behind the windows, tilting their heads in unison. They're coming, Mark said. Run. We sprinted through the hallway as the lights began to flicker. I could hear footsteps behind the glass, running alongside us, the smiles never fading. At the far end, Mark shoved open a maintenance door. We slammed it shut just as something hit the other side. The wood cracked under the impact, and the tapping turned into pounding fists. Mark turned to me, shaking with anger. You can't mess up again. If they get your name, if you even acknowledge them, you're done. Understand? I nodded, trembling. Mark didn't speak until the pounding against the maintenance door finally stopped. The silence that followed was worse. I could hear my own heartbeat, and every shadow in that dark room felt alive. Mark crouched down, his hands gripping his knees like he was trying to keep himself together. You don't get it, he said. Once they notice you, it's only a matter of time. That's why the rules exist, so you can stay invisible. I swallowed hard. What happens if you don't? He didn't look at me when he answered. You've seen it. Emily and the others. They aren't students anymore. They're just copies. Something hollow wearing their face. I glanced around the room, trying to distract myself from the dread creeping in. That's when I noticed the wall. Words were scratched into the peeling paint, hundreds of them, some written so deep into the plaster that bits of dust still crumbled from the letters. Don't look at the windows. Don't answer them. Don't stay after sunset. Lower down, one sentence stood out, carved deeper than all the rest. I broke a rule. It still wears my face. Mark, I whispered. Who wrote this? He turned, his face pale. Someone who didn't make it out. Before I could respond, Something scraped across the far side of the wall, like fingernails dragging through concrete. Then, faintly, a voice whispered through the cracks. "We see you now." The whisper made my blood run cold. Mark was already moving, grabbing my wrist. "We can't stay here. They know where we are," he said, his voice low and tight. The scratching on the other side of the wall grew louder, turning into slow, deliberate knocks. Then came the tapping on the windows again. Tap, 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 echoing through the halls like a signal. Mark led me through the narrow maintenance tunnels, his flashlight beam trembling. The deeper we went, the more I realized how old this school was. The brick walls were damp and crumbling, and the air was thick with mildew. I could still hear the tapping, but now it seemed to be above us, moving along the walls and ceiling, following wherever we went. We reached a ladder leading up to a heavy steel hatch. Mark shoved it with all his strength, and the rusted metal creaked open. A sliver of evening light spilled in. "Hurry," he said. I climbed up first, my hands scraping against the cold metal rungs. The hatch opened into a shadowed courtyard behind the gym. For a moment, the world felt normal again. The sound of distant cars, the cool breeze, the last orange glow of sunset. Mark climbed out behind me, slamming the hatch shut. "We're safe, for now." But as we walked away from the school, I glanced back. Every window was dark, except one. A figure stood there, its grin glowing faintly in the fading light, head tilted unnaturally as it watched us leave. That night I couldn't sleep. The list of rules burned in my mind. The smile I saw through the glass wouldn't fade. Tomorrow I was going to ask everyone I could about this place. I needed answers. The next morning, I walked into Westbrook High with one thought pounding in my head. I need to know what happened here. The halls felt different in daylight, almost normal, but I couldn't shake the feeling that some of the students weren't real. A girl laughed with her friends, but her smile lingered just a little too long, like it was stuck to her face. A boy in the corner stood unnaturally still, staring at nothing. I caught up with Mark between classes. "What's the real story?" I asked him. "Why are there rules like this? What is this school hiding?" Mark hesitated. "You don't want to know." "Yes, I do. Because if I'm staying here, I'm not walking around blind." He sighed and leaned closer. "There's an old rumor. Years ago, students started disappearing after dark. At first, everyone blamed kidnappings, but the missing kids, they started showing up again. Only, they weren't the same." I felt a chill crawl down my spine. "The smiling ones." Mark nodded. "Yeah, teachers pretended nothing happened. Most kids just don't talk about it. Those who do." He stopped. "Well, you saw what happened to Emily." Later, I decided to ask Lucas, the quiet kid from the other day. I cornered him outside the library. "What's really going on here?" I pressed. Lucas' face went pale. He leaned in, voice trembling. "You can't stop them. No one can. The rules don't protect you forever. They just buy you time." I frowned. "Time for what?" Lucas' eyes darted to the hallway windows. "Until they choose you." At that moment, I noticed something carved into the library doorframe. The words were faint, but they made my stomach twist. "IT starts with a smile." By the time classes ended, I couldn't shake Lucas's words. Until they choose you. What did that mean? How do they choose? I found Mark by the lockers, shoving his books into his bag like he couldn't wait to get out of here. "We're going to the library," I told him. He looked at me like I was insane. "Are you trying to get us killed?" "The library is the worst place after dark. Too many windows, too many corners they can watch from." "It's still daylight," I said, "and I think there's something hidden there, something someone left behind." The library was empty except for the sound of the old clock ticking on the wall. I started combing through the dustiest shelves in the back while Mark stood guard, glancing nervously toward the glass wall facing the courtyard. Then I found it. A leather-bound notebook tucked behind a stack of outdated yearbooks. The pages were worn, and some were torn out entirely, but the first entry stopped me cold. "If you're reading this, you've seen them. The smiling ones. They're not alive. They're not dead either. They belong to this place. Once you break a rule, they'll follow you. And when they do, No one will remember you were ever real. I flipped through the pages, my hands trembling. There were more rules, some the same as Mark's, others I hadn't heard before. And never look into the windows when it's raining. If you hear laughing in the stairwell, do not check who it is. And never follow a teacher who is smiling. The last entry sent a shiver through me. I saw my own face in the window last night. I don't know how long I have left. Don't let them take you. Mark, I whispered, holding out the journal. This isn't just a rumor. Someone knew. Someone left this here for a reason. Before he could answer, a soft tap echoed from the glass wall behind us. Deliberate. Mark grabbed my arm. Don't look, he whispered, but I couldn't help it. Slowly, I turned toward the window, and I froze. Staring back at me from just beyond the glass was me. Same face, same clothes, same wide, terrified eyes except for the grin. My reflection outside was smiling. The grin stretched unnaturally, too wide, almost splitting my face in half. His head tilted slowly, just like the others. My chest tightened. That's not. Mark shoved me hard, snapping me out of it. Don't look at it. The tapping grew louder, turning into a frantic scrape, scrape, scrape against the glass as if it was trying to claw its way inside. Then, faintly, I heard my own voice. My voice coming from it. Let me in. The sound was wrong, hollow, like a recording of my voice played backward. We have to go, Mark said, pulling me toward the door. I grabbed the journal tight, but my eyes flicked back one last time. My doppelganger was still there, still grinning, its hand pressed flat against the window. And for a split second, I saw something move behind it. Figures in the dark, all smiling the same way. We ran out of the library, the journal clutched to my chest. Why does it look like me? I asked, my voice shaking. Mark didn't answer right away. His face was pale. They're choosing you, he finally said. We didn't stop running until we were far from the school. Mark's house was quiet, curtains drawn tight like he was afraid something might be watching from outside. I tossed the journal onto his kitchen table. What does this mean, they're choosing me? Why me? Mark sat across from me, his hands shaking as he flipped through the worn pages. It's not personal. It's random. They focus on anyone who notices them. You saw one on your first night, didn't you? That's enough. I clenched my fists. So I'm just screwed? Not yet, he said. But we need to know where this all started. If we can figure that out, maybe we can find a way to keep them from noticing you any more than they already have. We studied the journal. Most of it was fragmented, scribbles of fear, accounts of strange noises, reflections moving on their own. But one page stood out. The handwriting was bold, angry, like the writer had carved it into the paper with every stroke. It began after the fire in the East Wing. They said they rebuilt it, but that's not true. That place doesn't belong to us anymore. Don't go there. Never go there. Mark's eyes darkened as he read it aloud. The East Wing. I frowned. What about it? It's been closed for years, Mark said. Everyone says it's because of water damage, but I've seen lights on in there at night. Moving shadows. Maybe that's where they come from. A chill ran through me. So, if we want answers, he shook his head. You don't get answers by going into that wing. You don't come back. I stared at the journal, the scratched warnings screaming at me from every page. Don't go there. But deep down, I knew I had to. We went just before sunset. The school was nearly empty, only the hum of the lights in the hallways following us. Mark kept glancing at the windows like he expected something to appear at any moment. Last chance to back out, he muttered as we stopped at the door leading to the East Wing. I shook my head. If this place is the reason they exist, I need to see it. Mark sighed. Then we go fast. We're out before the sun's gone. No hesitation. The East Wing smelled like burned wood and mold the moment we cracked the door open. The walls were blackened in places, as if fire had eaten through them and left its shadow behind. The lights here were dim, buzzing faintly like they didn't belong to the same building. The deeper we went, the colder it got. At the end of the first hallway, we found something that made my stomach twist. The lockers here weren't like the rest. They were warped, bent inward like something had clawed its way through the metal. And scratched into one of them, in a frantic scrawl, were the words, "IT smiles in the fire." Mark's hand tightened around my arm. "We shouldn't be here. I just need to see." I stopped. From the far end of the hallway, I heard laughter. Not the kind of laughter that comes from joy. It was broken, jagged, like someone trying to imitate the sound of being human. Then I saw them. 2 figures at the far end, just silhouettes at first, both grinning. Their heads tilted unnaturally, one snapping to the side with a sharp crack. "Run," Mark whispered. We ran, our footsteps pounding against the warped floorboards. The laughter followed, echoing down the hallway like it was coming from every direction. Mark pulled me around a corner and yanked on a rusted door handle. It wouldn't budge. "Help me," he hissed. We both threw our weight against the door until it groaned open, revealing a narrow maintenance corridor choked with dust and cobwebs. We stumbled inside and pushed the door shut behind us. The laughter stopped. The corridor was pitch black except for Mark's flashlight. We followed it down until the beam landed on something strange. A wall that didn't match the rest. It looked newer, as if someone had sealed off another room. "Help me push," I said. Together, we shoved against the loose bricks until one gave way, then another. A small gap opened, and a wave of cold air rushed out. I shined my phone's light inside. The room was burned. Charred desks and melted chairs were stacked in a corner, and the walls were black with soot. But what made my stomach turn were the drawings. Hundreds of them. Children's drawings taped and nailed to every inch of the wall. Smiling faces, windows, shadowy figures with long arms. Some had words scribbled beneath them. "They look like US. They come when you smile back." In the center of the room sat a broken mirror, the surface cracked and warped. It was covered in dark stains. Mark's voice trembled. "This is where it started. The fire didn't kill them. It brought them here." Before I could respond, something tapped on the broken glass of the mirror. The tap echoed like a drop of water in a cavern, but it came from the mirror. My breath hitched as I stepped closer. The cracks in the glass distorted my reflection, stretching my face into twisted versions of myself. In one shard, my eyes were too wide. In another, my mouth curled into that same inhuman grin I'd seen on the figures. Mark grabbed my shoulder. "Don't look too long," he whispered. "Mirrors are how they see you. That's why the rules don't mention them. Because if you see them through glass, you're already caught." But I couldn't look away. Suddenly, my reflection tilted its head. Not me, my reflection. I staggered back, heart pounding. "Mark, it's moving." Before he could respond, the mirror rippled like water. A pale hand pushed against the inside of the glass, and the tapping turned into slow, deliberate knocks. Knock, knock, knock. Then my reflection grinned, its teeth jagged and wrong. And it whispered, in my own voice, "We've been waiting for you." Mark yanked me away from the mirror. "We have to go now." The laughter started again, louder this time, coming from the hallway. Shadows were moving just beyond the broken wall, shapes gathering outside like they knew where we were. We sprinted back down the maintenance corridor. Behind us, the mirror cracked further with a sound like bone snapping, and I swear I saw something crawl out of it. We burst out of the east wing, slamming the heavy fire door behind us. Mark collapsed against the wall, breathing hard. "We shouldn't have gone in there," he muttered. His hands were shaking. "Now they've seen you. Really seen you." I wiped sweat from my forehead. "What does that even mean?" "You saw the mirror. That wasn't just a reflection. It's like, once you look too long, they know your face. They can copy you." We made it outside just as the last sliver of sun disappeared behind the horizon. The school's windows glowed faintly in the dark, one by one, like rows of watchful eyes. I swore I saw something moving inside. Faces pressed against the glass, all smiling. When I got home, I locked every door and window. For a while, I thought I was safe, but then I saw it. In the reflection of my bathroom mirror, I wasn't smiling, but it was. The face staring back at me looked like mine, but its grin was wide and wrong. Its head tilted slowly, and I felt my stomach drop as I realized it wasn't copying me anymore. It was moving on its own. Then, softly, it whispered in my voice, "Almost time." The next morning, Mark texted me, "Don't look at any mirrors today, not even by accident. They're close." By morning, I was terrified to look anywhere that could show my reflection. I covered the bathroom mirror with a towel, avoided car windows, even turned my phone screen face down. But no matter how hard I tried, I still caught glimpses. In the hallway at school, a trophy case reflected my face as I walked by, except my reflection didn't move with me. It just stood there, grinning. Mark noticed me freeze. "It's getting worse, isn't it?" he asked quietly. I nodded. "How do I stop this?" He didn't answer right away. The journal mentioned something about breaking the link. Maybe if we find out how this really started, we can end it. But once they get this close, there's almost no way back. By lunch, I felt eyes on me everywhere. Windows, screens, polished floors. They all showed me smiling back, even when my face was blank. That evening, as I was leaving the school, I made the mistake of glancing at a window by the exit. There I was, smiling, head tilted just like the others. But this time, I wasn't alone. Behind my reflection, dozens of faces stared from the dark hallway, all grinning. "It ends soon," Mark said later that night when I told him. His voice was grim. "The journal says if your reflection starts moving on its own, you've got one night to break the link, or they take you." Mark and I stood outside Westbrook High as the sun sank below the horizon. The school loomed in front of us, its windows already glowing faintly in the dim light, like rows of teeth grinning in the dark. "This is the last night," Mark said, his voice tight. "If we don't destroy that mirror, they'll take you. And once they take you, there's nothing left to save." I tightened my grip on the crowbar I'd brought. My reflection in the school's front door didn't match me anymore. It smiled even when I didn't. We slipped inside through the maintenance door. The building was silent, but the silence felt alive. Every shadow twitched at the edge of my vision. The rules ran through my head like a mantra. Don't look at the windows. Don't answer them. Don't smile back. But tonight I could feel them waiting. We reached the east wing door just as the last light vanished from the sky. Mark's flashlight cut through the darkness, and I felt the temperature drop as soon as we stepped inside. The laughter started, faint but growing. "Don't listen to them," Mark whispered. The closer we got to the burned classroom, the louder the tapping became. Tap, 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 like nails scratching at the walls. The mirror was waiting for us. It sat against the far wall, cracked and jagged, but now it looked alive, its surface rippling like dark water. My reflection was already there, grinning wide. Behind it, dozens of smiling faces pressed against the glass, clawing to get through. I raised the crowbar. "We end this now." The second I swung, the mirror screamed. Not glass, a voice. My voice. "Stop. You'll kill us both." I hesitated, and my reflection tilted its head, mimicking Mark's voice this time. "If you break it, you'll become one of us." Mark shouted, "Don't listen. Hit it." I brought the crowbar down. The glass shattered in an explosion of darkness and screams. Every window in the east wing blew out at once, the sound like a hurricane ripping through the school. The smiling faces vanished, ripped away into nothingness. When I woke up, I was outside, the morning sun on my face. Mark was there, breathing hard. "I think we did it," he said. But when I glanced at a puddle on the ground, my heart stopped. In the reflection, I wasn't smiling, but something deep in the water was.